First up is Ali Abulaban, better known as JinKid. He was a digital star famous for making people laugh with quick comedy skits. But behind those slick videos and nearly 1 million followers, Abulaban was masking a much darker reality. By October 2021, his life as a famous TikTok comedian crashed into a private world fueled by jealousy and dangerous obsession. A journey that started with viral fame ultimately ended with 2 people dead. Following a trial that stunned California, he received a sentence ensuring he would never walk free. Born in 1995, Abulaban eventually moved from Virginia to San Diego. For years, he scraped by with small jobs while desperately chasing his dream of becoming a professional entertainer. TikTok eventually became his chosen stage. Performing as JinKid, Ali gained traction with Tony Montana impressions and relatable sketches. His comedy bits went viral, spreading across the app at lightning speed. His loyal fan base exploded to nearly 1 million followers. In the world of TikTok, that kind of following changes everything. To his viewers, Ali was a rising star with a young family and a massive career on the horizon. However, for those who actually knew him, the reality was much grimmer. Away from the cameras, his marriage to Anna was crumbling. Friends later described a turbulent relationship poisoned by constant arguments, deep jealousy, and total distrust. By 2021, Anna had finally moved out to start over. She only stayed in touch to co-parent their young daughter. While she desperately wanted space, Ali refused to let go. His focus shifted from his career to a dangerous obsession with Anna's every move. That obsession was about to turn deadly. On October 21st, 2021, Anna was at her San Diego apartment with a male friend she'd grown close to. Without her knowing, Ali had hidden a listening device on their daughter's iPad. This allowed him to spy on the apartment whenever he chose. That afternoon, as he listened in, he became convinced Anna was there with another man. Blindsided by rage, he grabbed a handgun, drove to the complex, and let himself in. Moments later, he gunned down both Anna and her friend at point-blank range. It was a swift, brutal act fueled by pure jealousy. After the double shooting, Ali fled the scene without even trying to cover his tracks. He actually called his mother and confessed, telling her plainly that he had hurt Anna. He even picked his daughter up from school before San Diego police finally arrested him. That moment ended the career of an influencer whose fame hid a dark, personal storm. The story exploded into national headlines, with some outlets calling it the TikTok murders. Detectives soon discovered how Ali had been spying on Anna using that iPad. It showed just how calculated his stalking had truly become. Prosecutors painted him as a controlling man, consumed by the need to dominate his estranged wife. The forensic evidence and his own admissions confirmed the day's horrific events. When the trial started, the courtroom was packed. He faced 2 counts of first-degree murder with firearm enhancements. While his lawyers argued he acted in a heat of passion, the jury simply wasn't buying it. The proof of premeditation, including the hidden app and his decision to bring a loaded gun, was simply overwhelming. In 2024, after years of legal delays and pandemic setbacks, the jury found him guilty on all counts. The sentencing was heart-wrenching. Grieving family members gave tearful statements about the 2 lives that had been cruelly stolen. The state demanded the harshest penalty, citing his extreme cruelty and a total lack of remorse. The judge agreed. In September 2024, Ali Abulaban was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without parole, plus an extra 50 years for the firearm charges. The judge told him bluntly that he would die in prison, calling him both selfish and unrepentant. For Anna's family, the heavy sentence provided justice, but it brought no real comfort. Their daughter was gone forever, alongside the young man who just happened to be with her that day. For Ali, the sentence marked the end of a troubled journey from viral TikTok fame to a life behind bars. It serves as a grim reminder that fame can mask deep-seated issues, and that unchecked jealousy often ends in tragedy. Abulaban will never see freedom or post to social media again. His daughter, now forced to grow up without either parent, is the most tragic victim of all. What started as a family comedy brand is now a haunting cautionary tale about obsession and the dark side of internet fame. Sadly, he isn't the only influencer whose crimes resulted in a life spent behind bars. Our next case takes us to the United Kingdom, where another TikTok star's thirst for revenge ended in a fatal car chase. Number 2. Mahek Bukhari. Today, We are looking at a glamorous TikTok influencer who traded her celebrity lifestyle for a life behind bars. But behind the filtered posts and social media smiles, Mahek Bukhari hid a secret that would ruin everything. In February 2022, a high-speed chase through Leicestershire became one of the most shocking murder cases in years. At the centre were Mahek, her mother, and a deadly plan that went far beyond online drama. At the time of the incident, Mahek Bukhari was only 24 years old. Growing up in Stoke-on-Trent, she built a TikTok following by posting fashion tips and aspirational lifestyle content. She wasn't a global megastar, but she projected a successful image that made her seem larger than life. She frequently showcased luxury items and glamorous nights out, drawing plenty of attention from young, impressionable fans. Away from the cameras, home life was tense because her mother, Ansreen, was involved with Saqib Hussain. That secret relationship was about to spiral into a mess of total betrayal. Blackmail and violence pulled Mahek into the chaos after Saqib allegedly threatened to expose his affair with Ansreen. He claimed he would leak private messages and photographs unless the Bukharis paid him a large sum. Fearing public humiliation and a ruined reputation, Mahek and her mother hatched a plan to silence him. They promised to meet Saqib and Hashim late at night, under the pretense of settling the matter. It was a trap. Mahek and Ansreen gathered their accomplices and lured the men to a spot near Leicester. On the night of February 11th, 2022, Saqib and Hashim arrived in a silver Skoda. Soon after, Mahek's group swarmed them in 2 cars, a fast Audi and a Seat Leon. What followed was not a conversation, but a terrifying high-speed hunt through the night. Witnesses later described cars racing through the dark, weaving through traffic, and chasing the Skoda along the A46. During the pursuit, one of the cars deliberately rammed the Skoda, sending it careening violently off the road. The car hit a barrier and burst into flames, killing both Saqib and Hashim within minutes. As we will see, investigators quickly realized this was no simple driving accident. Emergency calls revealed Saqib dialed 999 during the chase, screaming that men were trying to kill him. That recording became a vital piece of evidence, capturing his terror and proving the crash was an intentional act. Forensic analysis of the wreckage showed clear impact points where the Skoda was forced off the highway. Within days, police arrested Mahek, her mother, and several associates on suspicion of a double murder. The case gripped the nation, as people struggled to believe an influencer could be involved in such a killing. When the trial began in 2023, prosecutors painted a truly damning picture of the events. They argued Mahek used her online bravado to mask a manipulative side, orchestrating the attack to protect her reputation. The defense claimed Mahek never intended for anyone to die, but the evidence against her was simply overwhelming. Text messages, witness statements, and that chilling emergency call all pointed toward a deliberate, lethal plan. In August 2023, after months of testimony, the jury finally returned their guilty verdicts. Mahek Bukhari and her mother, Ansreen, were both convicted of murdering Saqib Hussain and Hashim Ayazuddin. Several other defendants were found guilty of manslaughter, while Judge Justice Snay delivered a blistering sentencing. He told Mahek her obsession with fame and self-centered behavior made her treat human lives as disposable. He described the crime as a cold, calculated act driven by vanity and a fear of exposure. The sentences handed down reflected the absolute severity of their violent and heartless crime. Mahek was sentenced to life in prison, serving at least 31 years and 8 months before being considered. Her mother, Ansreen, also received a life sentence with a minimum of 26 years and 9 months. For the 2 victims, justice arrived with some of the longest sentences in modern history for an influencer-linked case. The fallout from the conviction was immense across the country and social media. TikTok accounts once celebrating her glamorous life were suddenly flooded with comments of pure shock and outrage. News outlets highlighted the gap between her perfect online persona and the real-life conspiracy that ended in murder. The case is now a cautionary tale about the dangers of social media, ambition, and protecting a false image. Today, Mahek sits inside a British prison, her TikTok gone silent, and her name now linked to infamy rather than fame. She will be middle-aged by the time she is even considered for parole, and there is no promise she will ever taste freedom again. Her pursuit of a glamorous social media lifestyle instead led to violence, shattered families, and a bleak future behind cold steel bars. While Mahek's case shocked the United Kingdom, You and I are now going to uncover an American story hiding a truly dark secret. Number 3. Ruby Franke. For years, the world knew her as the friendly face of family life on YouTube. Ruby Franke grew a massive audience of 2.5 million subscribers on her channel, 8 Passengers, documenting her life raising 6 kids in suburban Utah. Fans saw a devoted mother sharing advice on discipline, the struggles of parenting, and the daily highs and lows of family life. Her channel thrived in the booming family vlogger scene, where ordinary households were transformed into digital stars. To her followers, Ruby felt like a trusted guide for raising a successful family. In August 2023, that facade shattered. The picture-perfect home was actually a place of cruelty and control that left the entire world in deep shock. Ruby Franke launched her YouTube channel back in 2015, joining a wave of vloggers who built massive careers by turning their private lives into digital entertainment. At its height, 8 Passengers drew millions of viewers for parenting hacks, family vacations, and advice rooted in her personal faith. Ruby was a strict but loving mother, always willing to enforce the rules. Eventually, even her most loyal fans grew concerned. In certain videos, Ruby's style of parenting looked unusually cold and harsh. She once admitted to withholding food from a child as punishment and forced her son to sleep on a beanbag for months over a minor mistake. Some fans brushed this off as tough love, but for many others these were major red flags. By late summer 2023, those warnings became an undeniable nightmare. On August 30th, one of Ruby's children managed to escape from a home owned by Jodi Hildebrandt. She was Ruby's partner and the founder of the counseling group, Connections. The child was emaciated and covered in wounds, begging a neighbor for food and water. That neighbor called the police immediately. When officers stepped inside, they found a house of horrors. The children were malnourished, injured, and living in extreme deprivation. Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt were both arrested that day on several counts of aggravated child abuse. The case absolutely horrified the public. Prosecutors compared the conditions in that home to a concentration camp. The children were allegedly starved, bound with ropes, and totally isolated from the world. The gap between Ruby's smiling YouTube persona and the reality behind those doors sparked a massive wave of outrage across America. It leaves you and me wondering how so many obvious warning signs could have been ignored for such a long time. In court, the details were laid out with devastating clarity. Prosecutors presented evidence of prolonged systemic abuse, describing how Ruby and Hildebrandt used a regime of punishment that left the children underweight and deeply traumatized. Defense lawyers argued that Ruby was manipulated by Hildebrandt, but in the end, Ruby admitted to her own guilt. In February 2024, she took a plea deal and pleaded guilty to 4 counts of child abuse. Each individual count carried a prison sentence of 1 to 15 years under Utah law. At sentencing, the judge ordered the terms to be served consecutively, meaning Ruby faced up to 30 years in prison. Prosecutors called her actions horrific, while the court focused on the lasting trauma inflicted on her own children. Outside the courthouse doors, crowds of reporters and onlookers gathered in total disbelief that the woman they admired online as a role model was capable of such cruelty. Ruby's fall from grace was more than a tragedy. It was a reckoning for the entire world of family vlogging. It raised difficult questions about whether children in monetized content are truly safe, and if platforms like YouTube have a duty to intervene sooner. Viewers who once supported Ruby's videos now flooded the internet with messages of pure anger and heartbreak. Fans admitted they felt complicit for supporting the channel without knowing what was really happening behind the camera. For Ruby Franke, her life as a star is over. Instead of uploading videos for millions, she now sits in a cell facing decades behind bars. For her children, the healing will take years, a long journey we can only hope leads them to peace. For the wider world, this case stands as a chilling reminder that those perfect online images often hide a dark reality. The story of Ruby Franke is one of betrayal at its most fundamental level. She built her fame on presenting an ideal family life, but behind closed doors, she subjected her own children to horrific suffering. Once the truth finally came to light, it sent her entire digital empire tumbling down to the ground. Now she faces spending a significant portion of her life behind bars. She will be remembered not as a vlogger, but as a warning about the darkness hiding under social media perfection. and she was far from the only influencer deceiving millions. Our next case involves a young man whose online stunts turned into a real-life nightmare, claiming the lives of 6 innocent people. Number 4. Noah Gali. He chased fame through fast cars and dangerous stunts, the exact kind of content that goes viral on TikTok and Instagram. At just 17 years old, he crossed a line no one could forgive. One night in January 2022, he slammed his BMW into another car at 151 miles per hour. The crash killed 6 people instantly. A teenager's reckless search for clout became one of the deadliest influencer crimes in recent history. Noah Thomas Gali grew up in the comfortable suburban environment of Wellington, Florida. Like many teenagers, he was drawn to social media platforms where speed, danger, and luxury were the fastest tickets to online fame. He filmed himself redlining high-end cars and tearing down highways at insane speeds. To his growing audience, it was pure adrenaline, but for his friends, it was terrifying. He became known for signature challenges, asking followers to guess his speed for small cash rewards. It turned reckless driving into a game. This blurred the line between simple entertainment and a dangerous reality. In 2022, that line finally broke, costing 6 innocent lives. On January 27, 2022, he climbed into the driver's seat of his white BMW M5. That night, investigators say he hit 151 miles per hour on US Highway 441 in Delray Beach. Just ahead, 6 farm workers in a grey Nissan Rogue were heading home after a long day of work. They never saw him coming. At that velocity, the BMW slammed into the Nissan with brutal force, crushing the car and igniting a fiery wreck. Every single person inside that Nissan was killed instantly. First responders described the scene as one of the worst in the history of Palm Beach County. Police immediately identified the teenager as the driver. He was treated for minor injuries, but his phone told the real story. Investigators found clips of him bragging about his speed and those dangerous challenges. They also found posts featuring the very same BMW that caused the tragedy. You and I can see the prosecutor's argument clearly. This was the inevitable result of reckless behavior fueled by social media validation. As the victims were laid to rest, a wave of grief swept through the entire community. Those farm workers were remembered as hard-working immigrants just trying to support their families before their lives were cut short. Since he was only 17, the big question was whether he would face trial as a juvenile or an adult. Prosecutors fought for adult charges, insisting that the sheer scale of the tragedy demanded real accountability. The court agreed. He was hit with 6 counts of vehicular homicide, each carrying a heavy prison sentence. Experts noted that a conviction could mean at least 55 years in prison, essentially a life sentence. The stakes could not have been higher. For over 2 years, the case crawled through the system. The victims' families waited for justice while attorneys worked behind the scenes. In January 2025, just as we were about to see a trial begin, a plea deal was reached. He pleaded guilty to all 6 counts of vehicular homicide. While the deal saved him from a lifetime in prison, it still carried a massive cost. The judge handed down a sentence of 12 years and 6 months in prison, followed by 15 years of probation. He was also ordered to create a public service announcement about the dangers of speeding, ensuring he used his online influence to warn others instead of harming them. These families had lost their fathers, brothers, and sons in the blink of an eye. During the intense court hearings, relatives shared their grief, describing empty chairs at dinner and the financial struggle left behind. Advocates argue that this case highlights the deadly impact of clout chasing, especially when online followers encourage teenagers to push dangerous boundaries. His case resonated far beyond Florida. National media outlets soon branded him as the TikTok speed influencer who killed 6 innocent people. Experts argued over the 12-year sentence, some calling it too light, others reminding the world he was only a teen. Either way, his story became a warning. When chasing viral likes and attention crashes into real-world danger, the results are always catastrophic. Today, Noah is locked away in a Florida prison, serving time that will steal his 20s and bleed into his 30s. By the time he steps out, the digital world will have moved on. His followers will be gone, his reputation forever shattered. Instead of fame from fast cars and viral clips, he is the teen whose stunts killed 6 people and cost him his freedom. The Noah Gali case stands as a chilling reminder. Performing for a camera can have deadly consequences. A boy showing off for an audience turned into a crime scene that broke families and scarred an entire community. For the 6 men who never returned home that night, the cost of one influencer's ego was everything. His tragic story exposed the lethal risks of chasing clout through high-stakes stunts. Another star's downfall revealed how someone loved on television and social media was secretly exploiting his youngest fans. Number 5, Jeremiah Harris. A name that became famous almost overnight. Jeremiah Harris, known as Jerry, was the charismatic breakout star of the Netflix hit series, Cheer. His energy and larger-than-life personality made him the most beloved athlete on the entire show. He built a massive Instagram following, gaining millions of fans inspired by his spirit. To many, Jerry represented pure joy, encouragement, and the best of youth culture. But in 2020, that perfect image came crashing down. A journey of hope and fame ended in handcuffs and national outrage, revealing a dark reality hidden behind the digital screen. Jerry Harris was born in 1999 and raised in the state of Illinois. Life hit him hard early when he lost his mother as a child. Despite the grief, he found a new purpose in competitive cheerleading. He earned a spot on the elite Navarro College team. When Netflix launched Cheer in 2020, his infectious smile and supportive vibe made him an instant star. He appeared on major talk shows, hung out with celebrities, and interviewed household names on the red carpet. His sudden rise showed exactly how reality TV can turn an ordinary person into a massive national sensation. But while the spotlight shone bright, Jerry was secretly abusing the power of his newfound fame and influence. By September 2020, dark reports surfaced that Jerry was sending inappropriate messages to his underage fans online. Federal agents moved in quickly. What investigators found horrified those who once looked up to him. Court records later revealed he had been pressuring teenagers for photos and conversations that were entirely against the law. Prosecutors claimed his status and charm made it easy to manipulate young fans who desperately wanted his attention. The news shattered his wholesome brand. Netflix immediately distanced itself, and every major sponsor cut ties with the fallen star. For the fans who saw him as the heart of the show, this news was devastating. The thought that a marketed role model would use his influence to exploit children left the public feeling stunned and betrayed. Parents who once cheered with their kids now saw the series through a darker lens. The show even addressed the scandal in later seasons. In December 2020, the law caught up. Jerry was arrested. The legal battle was slow and slowed further by the pandemic, but federal prosecutors never stopped building their case. By February 2022, Jerry admitted his guilt, pleading to 2 charges of illegal online conduct with minors. His lawyers argued for mercy, citing his traumatic childhood and claiming he needed psychological treatment rather than a long prison sentence. However, the prosecution focused on the predatory nature of his actions and the lasting trauma he caused to vulnerable kids. The day of judgment arrived in July 2022. Inside a Chicago courtroom, Jerry Harris received 12 years in federal prison, followed by 8 years under intense legal supervision. The judge noted his difficult past, but was firm. He had betrayed his fans and caused permanent damage to his victims. The state argued that Harris had weaponized his status as a celebrity. He turned a position of positive influence into a calculated opportunity for exploitation. The fallout was massive. Every major news outlet in the country tracked the case closely. Social media exploded with shock and anger from the very people who had once cheered for his success. The show Cheer, once a feel-good success, became forever linked to this disturbing scandal. For the families left behind, this sentence offered some accountability, though no prison time could ever truly heal the damage done. Today, Jerry Harris is just another inmate in federal prison. The upbeat, smiling star millions once worshipped is officially gone. He serves as a dark cautionary tale. It is a chilling look at how fame is abused and how fast a public image crumbles. The Harris case is a stark reminder that even our favorite role models can hide the most dangerous secrets. This story is still sending shockwaves through the cheerleading world and the wider community of social media influencers. It sparked questions about the responsibility of platforms and production companies to protect fans, and how unchecked fame can so easily lead to an abuse of power. While Jerry once stood for hope and joy, today he is the face of betrayal and a total downfall. His 12-year sentence ensures he will spend much of his adult life behind bars, paying for actions that destroyed the trust his fame built. For many who once truly looked up to him, this story is about more than crimes. It is the disillusionment of seeing a hero turn out to be a monster. While Harris showed how fame could be weaponized, another influencer built a kingdom on lies that was destined to fall. Let's uncover how another influencer built an entire empire on luxury, only for investigators to find one of the largest fraud schemes ever. Number 6. Ramon Abbas, the man known as Hush Puppy. To his millions of Instagram followers, he was the very definition of a self-made success story. Ramon Abbas, calling himself Ray Hush Puppy, filled his feed with private jets, luxury cars, designer clothes, and expensive 5-star hotels. He seemed to have it all: wealth, fame, and power. But behind the glamour was a criminal empire built not on hard work, but on some of the most complex cybercrimes ever uncovered. In 2020, federal agents finally closed in. By 2022, a US court declared him one of the most prolific money launderers alive, sentencing him to a decade in prison while seizing his empire. Born in Nigeria in 1982, Abbas had humble beginnings before reinventing himself as a high-flying social media icon. On Instagram, he sold an image of absolute unstoppable success. 2 million followers watched his every move. Hush Puppy was famous for showing off rare supercars, custom designer outfits, and constant first-class travel to exotic locations. To his young fans, he was living proof that hustle pays off, but those displays of wealth were never funded by any legitimate business. It was fueled by global cybercrime. Investigators placed Hush Puppy at the heart of an international syndicate specializing in bank fraud, email scams, and massive money laundering. Their schemes targeted massive corporations, banks, and even governments. Hackers would hijack email systems to trick companies into sending funds to fake accounts. Abbas then laundered those millions through complex shell companies and foreign accounts. In one instance, his crew tried to steal over $100 million from an English Premier League club, but they were caught. They also defrauded a major law firm in the United States. The FBI estimated his network attempted to launder $300 million in just 18 months. His run ended in June 2020 in Dubai. Local police and the FBI raided his luxury apartment inside the famous Palazzo Versace complex to bring him down. Inside, they found a mountain of evidence, including hard drives and smartphones linking him to thousands of fraudulent money transactions. Photos from the scene showed rows of luxury cars, every single one bought with stolen money. For his followers, the news was a total shock. The lifestyle guru they admired was revealed to be a global predator. After being extradited to Los Angeles, Abbas finally had to face federal charges. In July 2021, he pleaded guilty to conspiracy to engage in a money laundering scheme. Court papers revealed the scale of his work, including attempts to steal millions from a Qatari businessman under fake loan pretenses. Prosecutors made it clear that Hush Puppy was no small-time player. He was the engine of a vast criminal network that caused real financial ruin across multiple continents. As you and I see how it ended in November 2022, a judge sentenced him to 135 months in federal prison. He was also ordered to pay $1.7 million back to 2 of his victims. During sentencing, the judge described him as one of the most prolific money launderers in the world, a man who exploited global networks while flaunting his crimes online. Shock and outrage followed the sentencing announcement. Outlets across the United States and Britain, Nigeria and beyond covered every detail, showing how Hush Puppy used Instagram fame to hide his dark crimes. To the police, this was a rare win, catching a massive fraudster who bragged about his stolen wealth while the world watched. It served as a grim reminder that a polished influencer persona can easily mask deep corruption and lies. Even with him behind bars, this case continues to fuel intense debate. New documentaries and films are already in the works, exploring where social media fame meets global crime. This story shows the dark side of a troubling trend, where the hunger for social media luxury pushes people to commit crimes. Today, he sits in a United States federal prison. The glitzy life he once bragged about is long gone. No more private jets, expensive suits, or fast sports cars. Instead, he faces 10 years in a cell, leaving behind an online empire built entirely on lies and fraud. For his victims, no amount of money fixes the damage, but the case remains a warning. Not everything you see online is real, and sometimes the price of a fake life is a real prison cell. The story of Ramon Abbas is not just about fraud. It shows how social media can be weaponized to trap, manipulate, and lie to the world. What seemed like the dream life of a self-made millionaire was really just the mask of a criminal operation that spanned the globe. Now stripped of his riches and the digital stage he once commanded, people remember him not for his style, but for the long sentence that ended his digital influence forever. While that downfall exposed financial fraud, another YouTube star used his platform to exploit the very fans who made him famous. Let us pivot now and examine this case together. Number 7. Austin Jones. In the mid-2000s, YouTube was packed with hopeful musicians trying to make it big. One was Austin Jones, a singer from Illinois, who blew up thanks to his a cappella covers and original tracks. He gained over 500,000 subscribers, mostly teenagers drawn to his clean-cut look and catchy songs. To the world, Jones seemed like just another rising star in the booming world of online performers. But in 2017, investigators found that behind his friendly persona, he was using his platform for serious criminal acts. 2 years later, he was handed a 10-year sentence in federal prison. Born in 1992, Austin Jones grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. He started posting to YouTube in 2007, slowly finding an audience by showing off his impressive vocal range. By 2014, his numbers exploded, and he was touring the country, performing live for his dedicated fans. He was known as a wholesome guy, and young fans felt he was someone safe they could trust. But that wholesome image was far from the truth. In 2017, federal agents began looking into reports about his disturbing private interactions with many of his underage followers. Court records reveal how Jones used his fame as an influencer to pressure teenagers into sending him videos that no adult should ever have asked to see. The FBI stepped in and, after building their case, arrested him in June of that year. He was charged with multiple counts of receiving illegal material from minors, an arrest that sent massive shockwaves throughout the entire YouTube world. Other creators immediately backed away from him, and his once positive channel became the center of intense public outrage and scrutiny. The legal battle played out over the next 2 years. At first he denied the claims, but the evidence was simply undeniable. Prosecutors laid out exactly how he targeted young fans who admired him, manipulating them into doing things that were both exploitative and highly illegal. It was a horrific abuse of trust. He betrayed the very audience that had given him a career. His lawyers argued he was a first-time offender who was struggling with deep personal issues, but the state focused on the severity of his crimes and the permanent damage to his victims. In February 2019, Austin Jones pleaded guilty to federal felony charges of receiving illegal material from children. 3 months later, in May 2019, he faced a judge in a Chicago courtroom. The judge ordered 10 years in federal prison, citing the intentional and repeated nature of his crimes. The court also ordered that after his release, Jones would remain under strict supervision for years to ensure he could never commit such crimes again. For the victims, we can finally see that accountability was served. The damage could never be fully undone, and the public reaction was both swift and incredibly harsh. News outlets across the nation reported on the case, revealing how a harmless reputation hid a history of serious criminal conduct. Fans expressed shock and disappointment. Many felt completely betrayed by the artist they once admired. The YouTube community faced renewed questions about how creators with massive youth audiences are actually vetted and monitored for safety. For Jones, the sentence brought a permanent end to his career. His music videos were quickly scrubbed from major platforms, and his name became linked with one of the platform's darkest scandals. He is now serving his time in federal prison with a projected release date in 2027 at the earliest. Even after prison, his status as a registered offender will follow him for life, preventing any return to his former influence. Today, you and I can see the Austin Jones case as a grim cautionary tale. It shows how online celebrity can be used in destructive ways, exploiting the trust that comes with digital fame. This story highlights the importance of protecting young audiences in spaces where influencers have direct access to their fans. For the platform, the scandal highlighted a desperate need for better oversight to catch misconduct before it ever spirals into a federal crime. His fall serves as a sharp reminder that behind the music and the curated persona was a man who caused irreparable harm. His 10-year sentence proved that there are heavy consequences when fame is abused for criminal acts. For his followers, the story is a bitter example of how social media facades can hide disturbing truths. Austin Jones will remain behind bars until the late 2020s, long after his peers have moved on. His name, once tied to upbeat songs, is now permanently linked to one of the darkest chapters in influencer culture. His case revealed how a digital career can be corrupted from the very beginning. But as you and I have seen, YouTube isn't the only place where a carefully crafted influencer persona can fall apart. Number 8. Ashley Grayson. On Instagram, she played the part of a self-made millionaire. Posting photos of luxury cars and designer bags, Ashley branded herself as a business coach who had cracked the code to making millions. To her followers, she was a story of inspiration, a woman who built wealth from nothing and promised to help others do the same. But in 2021, the curated posts gave way to a choice that revealed a very different side of her. What began as an online feud spiraled into a real-world plot that ended in a federal conviction. Living in Dallas, Texas, she marketed herself as a girl-boss entrepreneur who could turn social media into a business empire. By selling courses on financial freedom, she convinced a loyal following that she could make them wealthy too. She used luxury items as proof of her success, presenting herself as completely untouchable. But as her online profile grew, so did her bitter disputes. By 2021, she was locked in a toxic feud with another creator, trading insults and accusations. This digital drama was about to turn into something incredibly dangerous for everyone involved. Prosecutors say Ashley decided her rival was more than an annoyance, she was a threat, but had to be eliminated. Investigators later revealed that Ashley also plotted against an ex-boyfriend and a critic who had publicly spoken out against her. Instead of arguing in the open, she decided to make her problems disappear forever. She approached a couple and asked them to carry out violent attacks on her behalf. What she didn't know was that the couple would go straight to the police. Working with investigators, they caught her plotting on tape. On video, she discussed her willingness to pay for the murders and the specific amounts she would offer. Damning evidence. It was shocking proof for the loyal followers who once believed in her as an inspiring and legitimate business mentor. Let's look at how this glamorous coach finally crossed the line into serious crime. In 2022, federal agents formally charged Ashley Grayson with a murder-for-hire scheme. Headlines screamed about this case not just for the violence, but for the toxic social media angle. She built a brand on online success, but she was eventually accused of plotting deadly violence against her rivals. As her 2024 trial approached, her double life was exposed. Prosecutors painted her as a master manipulator, entirely consumed by her own ego. She was someone who would do anything to protect her brand and silence her critics. Let us look at the evidence. In court, the jury heard recordings of Ashley negotiating with supposed hitmen. They listened to her discuss price tags and targets, leaving no room for doubt about her intent. The defense claimed she was trapped or misunderstood, but the pile of evidence was simply too high to ignore. After deliberation, the jury found Ashley Grayson guilty of murder for hire. In March 2024, a judge handed down the sentence. She received the maximum penalty of 120 months, 10 years in federal prison with no parole. Afterward, federal authorities issued a stern warning. Online feuds and internet rivalries can turn deadly in the real world. Their message was clear: using violence to settle digital beef will never be tolerated. It was a spectacular fall from grace. Just months before, she was telling followers she was proof of the American dream, selling success one course at a time. Now, she was just another inmate. Her online empire vanished, and her reputation was completely shattered. Her desperate attempt to save her image ended up exposing her as someone willing to destroy lives for herself. The true crime world caught fire with the story, as fans and critics shared their total disbelief. Many admitted they always doubted her millionaire status, noticing cracks in her flashy and inconsistent business model. Others were just stunned that she would cross the line into such extreme, violent territory. For investigators, this became the ultimate cautionary tale of how ego and greed can push an influencer over the edge. Today, Ashley Grayson is serving time in a federal facility. She will be nearly 45 by her release, returning to a dead brand. The lessons on empowerment she once sold have been replaced by a legacy of lies and deceit, betrayal and cold-blooded violence. Her case serves as a grim reminder of how chasing fame and influence can spiral into major crime. In her attempt to silence her competition, she ended up losing absolutely everything. Stick with me, because this story gets worse. She went from being a millionaire mentor to an inmate who traded her freedom for a murder plot. Her story proved that online rivalries can quickly turn into real-world felonies. But she was not alone. Another creator famous for handing out cash was soon revealed as a massive con artist. Coming in at number 9, Jabba J. Mazzini Igbara. For a long time, he looked like the most generous man online. Jabba Igbara, better known as J. Mazzini, he went viral on Instagram for handing out massive stacks of cash to total strangers. He filmed himself surprising fast food workers and delivery drivers, crafting an image of wealth, faith, and pure kindness. His clips gained millions of views and followers. To many, he was a devout businessman who simply wanted to give back. But in 2021, the truth came out that generosity was all a carefully crafted illusion. Behind those staged giveaways was a web of fraud that drained millions from victims, including his own inner circle. J. Mazzini grew up in a very close-knit Muslim family over in New Jersey. By his late 20s, he was marketing himself as a successful entrepreneur with a heart of gold. He paired his cash stunts with captions about faith and family, making people believe in his holy mission. He launched a brand called Mazzini Italia, styling himself as a model of success. But the money was never from honest business. According to federal prosecutors, Igbara was running massive Ponzi schemes and cryptocurrency scams. From 2019 to 2021, Igbara lured investors with promises of massive above-market returns. He told his victims he was running high-profit ventures and would personally manage their investments. In reality, he used money from new investors to pay off the old ones, the classic sign of a Ponzi scheme. Over time, the stolen funds hit millions. He specifically targeted his own religious community in New York, exploiting their trust. Victims later described how they thought they were helping a brother in faith, only to find their savings completely gone. As his Instagram fame exploded, we discovered Igbara had added yet another layer to his complex web of fraud. Today, we're looking at a man who pitched fake crypto deals, promising to buy Bitcoin from fans at impossible prices. Lured by the promise of easy cash, dozens of followers sent him their crypto. But instead of paying them back, Igbara sent forged receipts while pocketing the lion's share. Court records later revealed he swindled at least $8 million through these scams alone. This online saint was actually draining the accounts of his loyal fans. By 2021, the feds were closing in. Victims started coming forward when those promised payments never hit their banks. Agents found forged records, fake transfers, and messages where Igbara kept stringing people along. By March 2021, he was in handcuffs on federal fraud charges. News of his arrest went viral, stunning the followers who once praised his videos of kindness. Suddenly, the Instagram star who built a brand on giving was unmasked as a common thief. For 3 years, the legal battle dragged on. Prosecutors hit him with wire fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering. By April 2024, Igbara finally pleaded guilty to every single count. During his sentencing, the U.S. Attorney's Office made it clear. This prosecution unmasked a fraudster who had shamelessly used his religion and his fame to manipulate those who trusted him most. The court agreed. He was sentenced to 84 months in prison, 7 years behind bars, and ordered to give up $10 million. He also faces restitution, meaning he will be paying back his victims long after he walks free. The punishment matched the massive theft and the broken trust. These victims weren't just names on a screen. They included members of his own mosque, longtime friends, and regular followers who believed in him. Many lost their entire life savings, retirement funds, or the money they had saved for their kids' college. The damage went deeper than bank balances. His downfall became a massive true crime story across social media. People couldn't help but notice the gap between his staged kindness and the cold fraud happening off camera. It showed just how easily online personas are faked, leaving followers unable to tell reality from a carefully crafted performance. For Instagram, the case proved how easily scammers exploit platforms using flashy lifestyles and emotional stories to gain influence. Today, Jabba J. Mazzini Igbara sits in a federal cell, stripped of the reputation he spent years building. The man once seen as an inspirational hero is now remembered as an influencer who conned his way to fame. He will be nearly 40 when he gets out, returning to a life of ruined reputation and massive unpaid debts. His story reminds us that not every act of kindness on your feed is what it seems. Sometimes the hand giving away cash on camera is the same one stealing it when the lens is off. For his former fans, the truth was a bitter pill to swallow. Behind those viral clips was a man willing to betray his own people just for a profit. Number 10. Cameron Herron. In 2018, you and I find ourselves in a quiet Florida neighborhood, the scene of a truly heartbreaking tragedy. In the middle of it all was Cameron Herron, a teen with a sleek Mustang and a TikTok following who seemed like any other kid chasing clout and speed. But one split-second decision on the road took 2 lives and ruined his forever. What followed wasn't just a heartbreaking homicide case, it became one of the most viral court stories in recent history. Born in 1999, Cameron moved to Tampa as a kid. By his high school graduation in 2018, his future looked bright and normal. Friends called him quiet and polite. His parents gave him a brand new Mustang for graduation, a car that quickly became the center of his world. Like any other teen, Cameron posted clips of his car and lifestyle on TikTok and Instagram. He wasn't a celebrity, but he had enough of a following to feel like part of that online car scene that glamorizes fast driving and performance. On the morning of May 23rd, 2018, Cameron and his friend were cruising side by side down Bayshore Boulevard, a famous waterfront stretch in Tampa. Witnesses later reported seeing the two racing, pushing their cars way past the speed limit. At that same moment, 24-year-old Jessica Rising Aralbanolt was pushing her baby daughter Lilia in a stroller across the street. They were visiting family on vacation. In a heartbeat, tragedy struck when Herron's Mustang plowed into them at high speed. Both mother and child were killed instantly. The entire community was left in shock. Bayshore Boulevard was known as a scenic stretch for joggers and families. In an instant, it became the site of the deadliest crash in the city's memory. Officers immediately took both Herron and Barono into custody. Investigators found that Herron had been driving over 100 miles per hour in a 45 zone. The story dominated local headlines as residents demanded justice for the reckless street racing that had long plagued the area. The legal process unfolded over the next 3 years. Herron was charged with 2 counts of vehicular homicide and unlawful racing. Prosecutors argued his actions were no mere accident, but the predictable result of his reckless choices. They highlighted the devastating impact on the family of the victims, who lost a young mother and child in a moment of senseless thrill-seeking. Herron's defense team admitted responsibility, but asked the court to consider his youth, clean record, and potential for change. This case drew even more attention because of Cameron's massive presence online. As the trial neared, TikTok videos of the handsome teenager went viral. Entire fan communities began posting stylized edits of him in court. Some sympathized with his plight, while others condemned the worship of someone responsible for 2 deaths. By the time the sentencing arrived, the hashtag Justice for Cameron Herron had amassed millions of views. People worldwide debated whether he deserved mercy or the maximum punishment allowed. On April 8, 2021, the verdict came down. In a Tampa courtroom, Cameron Herron was sentenced to 24 years in state prison. The judge delivered a very stern message, saying the sentence reflected the magnitude of the tragedy and the need to stop others from reckless street racing. Jessica Risinger Robin's husband gave a tearful statement describing the irreplaceable loss of his wife and young child. For the family, the sentencing provided a sense of accountability, though it could never repair the damage done. The sentence was one of the longest ever handed down in Florida for this crime. Some called it too harsh for a teenager. Others argued it was entirely appropriate, given the devastation caused. The online conversation exploded. International outlets from the United States to the Middle East covered the case as Herron's name trended worldwide. Many portrayed him as both a villain and a victim. It became one of the rare criminal cases to go truly viral globally. Today, Cameron Herron is serving his sentence in Florida State Prison. He will be in his 40s before he is eligible for release, spending most of his adult life behind bars. His case is still debated for the severity of the punishment and the strange way it captured the internet's imagination. Supporters argue that his young age should have weighed more heavily. While critics point to the permanent loss of life, the story of Cameron Herron is ultimately about choices and consequences. A young man, a fast car, and a moment of thrill turned into a lifetime of regrets and heartbreak. For the family of Jessica and Lilia, no sentence could equal their loss. For the city of Tampa, the case brought new crackdowns on racing and a sobering reminder of how driving kills. For the online world, it showed how a courtroom tragedy can become entangled with influencer culture while millions watch and debate. It was a case that travelled far beyond its local origins. With Herron's 24-year sentence, our list comes full circle. From fraud to violence to reckless ambition, these cases reveal how influencer culture hides dangerous truths. For some, the pursuit of fame led not to fortune, but a prison cell.